Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. I'm your host, Charles. Along with me, as always, my co-host, editor, producer, co-pilot, gunner, navigator, orator, and podcasting associate, Jacob Goloth. How you doing today, Jacob?
I am swell, Charles. Excited for another episode of the podcast, episode 252. Very nice. Very cool.
So many
very
numbers.
Exciting.
So many twos.
You
it's
have
gonna be great.
A new pitch for us today. New
I have
show.
a pitch.
Last week, you told me it was going to be a horror show, but now you've revealed to me that it's not horror. It's something else.
Not
the
even
show,
a little bit.
Is titled Before the Nightmare Ends. Charlie, what?
Before the Nightmare Ends.
Yeah, what do we expect?
Well, here's the thing. I lied to you twofold.
What?
I said it would be a horror TV show, and it is a dramatic comedy film. All right? So it's not at all any of the things I said it would be last week, right?
Okay.
Comedy, drama. It's kind of about, it's a horror in a sense. It's about the horror of our own mortality as a species, right? It's about a man confronting his own mortality with bags and bags full of cocaine at his side, right?
Oh.
So, I want to tell you where I got this idea from. So, I just, in my mind, I was taking a shower, and in my mind I had this idea of a guy staring at a camera, right? Staring at the camera, and he's got really sudsy hair, and one, like, rivulet of shampoo is running down his face and looks like a tear running down his face. Like, it runs through his eye and, like, down his cheek, and it looks like a tear, but it's, like, purple, you know?
Yeah.
So that was where I got the idea from. And I wrote down, this
That's an
is
idea?
sort of, that was the seed of the idea. Of this guy,
Okay.
and he's got shampoo in his hair, and he's sad, right?
I'm not sure we can get a whole 90 minutes out of that, Charlie, for a movie.
I'm 100% positive
Long-
because
long
I
take
decided to make
for
a
that
show.
single
I decided to make a movie that's like inspired by Hairspray, which is a Warren Beatty movie. Hairspray, I think that's the name of it.
Hairspray the play?
Warren Beatty movie.
Like Baltimore?
No, it's a Warren Beatty movie from the 70s where he's a hairdresser. Yeah.
Now you just
Shampoo,
confused me.
that's
I have no
what it's
idea
called.
What's going on.
The movie's called
All right,
Shampoo.
Hairspray, different thing.
Yeah.
Different.
It is. But it's a movie called Shampoo, and Warren Beatty's a hairdresser, and like in the 70s in LA, right? And I'm this movie's sort of Leaving Las Vegas meets The Last Holiday. And Leaving Las Vegas is a movie starring Nicolas Cage where he goes to Las Vegas in order to drink himself to death, right? Very sad. The Last Holiday is a Queen Latifah movie in which she gets diagnosed with a terminal, illness and decides to liquidate everything she owns and go on a super extravagant vacation in Europe, right?
Yeah.
And I'm kind of mashing these two movies together, right? So, our main character, Donald Hall, is a metrosexual hairdresser living in LA. He is a manipulative, sex-addicted, drunken reprobate who has slept with about half the city. All right? That's our main character, right? And then our secondary protagonist is Rebecca Morris, a young and naive girl who has just moved to LA with big dreams of becoming a screenwriter, right?
Okay.
So those are our two main characters. We've got one he's a drug addict, he's an alcoholic, he's just a kind of a degenerate, but he's also handsome and charming, well put together, and he's a hairdresser in LA, and he just cuts hair, and everyone thinks he's gay, but he's not gay, he's actually sleeping with all their wives,
Oh.
And then we have Morris, who is a young, naive, she's from the Midwest, and she doesn't know anything, and she's like, oh, I'm just happy to be here. And so they both kind of rub off on each other, and their personalities jive quite well, right? So I think it's best to just kind of walk you through how the movie's gonna go. Opening scene, right, is our main character, played by Adam Driver, I might say. That's who I was picturing in my head.
Trying to save his
right?
very strange career.
Adam Driver's a very weird. It's like Timothy. Okay, I was doing Timothy Chalamet in my head, right? Because that's who we always do. But he's a little too boyish for this role. This guy has to look a bit haggard and a bit fucked up, but still handsome and charming. And I think Adam Driver could pull that off well, right? Adam Driver as Donald Hall is having a sex montage, right? And it's just him, like, cutting this woman's hair, and then he's banging her, right? Cutting this woman's hair, and then he's banging her. Shampooing this woman's head, then he's banging her, right? And it's just a series of that. We do that for a few minutes, right? And then he's in this lovely Hollywood apartment, or Hollywood house, right? And this woman, right, she's in a negligee, and she's very, like, sultry, and maybe she's holding a martini, right? And he's like, hey, baby, you ready to go? Like, another round? I'm all for it. And she's like, oh, you don't look great. Is everything all right, Donald? And he's like, oh, baby, I'm a fuck machine. I'm ready to rock and roll. And just as he says that, a giant spurt of blood shoots out of his nose, and he goes ghost white and passes out on the ground, right? Naked as the day he's born.
Is this a real-life experience for you?
Yes, exactly. And then he's taken to the hospital, where he is informed by his doctors that he has a massive, inoperable brain tumor that is pushing in on his pituitary gland and his prefrontal cortex. Oh, God. Right? Now, those are a lot of sciencey words, I know. The pituitary gland is, among other things, in charge of sex drive, right? Which would explain his increased sex drive and his sex addiction. And the prefrontal cortex, among many other things, is responsible for inhibition control. And so this guy, his inhibitions have been basically removed, and he is horny 24/7, right? And this, he gets this diagnosis, and he says he's told he has 3 months to live. There is not really any wiggle room here. Maybe you can squeeze a 4th month out of it if you go clean living, yoga, like only drinking water and eating like fruits, vegetables, and shit like that. But Donald's not going to do any of that, right? He decides, once he gets the diagnosis, that he is not going to let anything stop him. He is going to live his life to the absolute fullest extent that he can, right? And so we then get another montage, but instead of banging ladies, he's shopping. He's buying nice clothes. He's buying nice watches, right? He's having a grand old time, getting drunk, having parties, buying people shots, right? That sort of thing. And at the end of the shopping spree, he decides, like, he wakes up hungover in somebody's apartment, head in his hands, and he's like, oh, fuck, I need a driver, right? And so that's when he hires a limo service. And who's driving his limo? That would be a Rebecca Morris. The only job she was able to get in LA, right, was working for the lowest low-rent limo company in the city, right? And so she's just driving around people. And usually, she's been doing it for a few weeks, and usually she just drives around like bachelorette parties and bachelor parties and like people going to prom and shit like that. But now she's just been hired by this guy, and he's like, I need a limo service for the next 3 months. Here's a down payment, right? Here's like, let's say $5,000, right? You're gonna be where I need you to be whenever I need you to be there, right? And she's like, yes, sir, right? And so they decide to go up to the Hollywood sign, right? And because, I mean, they don't decide. Hall decides to go up to the Hollywood sign because he wants to look over the city, right? And he goes up and he lights a cigarette and he does a bump of cocaine, right? He's like, this is great, you know? And he and Morris just start talking, and she starts talking a little bit more about herself, about like, I'm from Wisconsin, and I want to be a screenwriter, and I've sent about all these like different applications out and stuff like that, and nobody's gotten back to me. And Hall, being sort of a cantankerous, cynical kind of guy, is making fun of her and like insulting her dreams, not in a friendly kind of a ribbing way, like in a mean sort of a way, right? And she stands up for herself. She says, well, fuck you. Like, don't tell me that. Don't say I'm a failure, that I'm never going to amount to anything. Look at you. You're a fucking hairdresser who's going to be dead in 3 months. What do you have to show for it, right? Like, they get into a row. And this is maybe 5 hours after meeting each other, but they get into a fight, right? And Hall takes the keys off of Morris and drives away in the limousine, leaving her up in the Hollywood sign, right? Oh, which, very nice. As far as I'm aware, is pretty far away from most things. It's not like there's just like a bus stop next to the Hollywood sign. It's hard to get.
A little bit of a hike.
Yeah. Yeah. So he then, angrily driving the limousine, he goes to an aquarium where he knows somebody who works at this aquarium. He knows one of the beluga whale people, right? And he pays his beluga whale like a caretaker, I guess, veterinarian. He gives him like $500, to let let Hall ride the beluga whale while wearing a scuba mask full of cocaine. And so this guy is just riding on the back of a whale doing cocaine and having a grand old time. And then he goes out and he gets more fucked up. Meanwhile, Morris is hitchhiking from the Hollywood sign. She's just walking. She's got like ticks and bugs and shit in her hair and all this stuff. And she's like so pissed off and thinking about like, I'm not going to do this. I can't do this. I'm going home. I'm going home. I'm going home, right? All this stuff, right? He wakes up the next day after a hard night of partying and getting lit and having a grand old time. And his first thought, he calls her up. He calls up Morris. He says, Morris, I need you to come pick me up. And she's like, you have the car, dipshit. What the fuck are you talking about? Oh, yeah. Sorry. I get like that sometimes. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
And he promises her another couple of grand, and she's like, fine, give me the address. I'll be there as soon as I can be, right? A few hours pass. She finally shows up. LA traffic, you know how it is. He shows up, and she drives him in the limousine, right? And he's hungover, but he's like refuses to stop. Like he's not taking a day off because he does not have the time, right? So he's like, all right, I've always wanted to do this. Let's go to open houses, right? And so Morris and Hall spend the afternoon going to open houses all over Beverly Hills, right? And just exploring all of these incredibly extravagant and fancy apartments, right? And Hall is like, oh my God, I've never like done an upper decker in the Beverly Hills, right? Like we're not being nice here. I'm fucking with these people's houses because fuck these people. They're a bunch of rich cunts, right? And so Hall takes a shit in somebody's cistern, and they just have a fun time in the houses, and they start to get along a little bit better, but Morris is still rightfully pretty pissed off, right? Then they decide to check another thing off of Hall's bucket list, which is he wants to eat at Erewhon. Have you ever been to Erewhon?
No.
It's the super fancy grocery store that only rich Hollywood douchebags eat at.
So
right?
why would I have been there?
Because you're a rich Hollywood elitist.
Oh yeah, I forgot that I was that. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you're a rich Hollywood socialite. You know all the people. You are Samuel Jackson's Kangol chauffeur. You bring him all his Kangol hats. But he gets into Erewhon, right? And he gets the last, like, salad that comes in a jar. I'm assuming that's something they have there, right? Like a very dumb-looking salad in a jar, right? He and John Hamm grab for the salad, and he gets it first, right? And John Hamm's like, hey, buddy, can I get that salad? It's my wife's favorite. And he says, go fuck yourself, John Hamm, you big prick, all right? I didn't even watch Mad Men. Fuck you, right? And that's how the end of month 1 ends. For the movie, for Hall, is he gets into a fist fight with John Hamm in the parking lot of Erewhon. And now we're going on to month 2, which is he has, this month and one more month to live. But there is an interim scene, which is Morris confronting her mother and telling her about how she's going to move to LA, and become a screenwriter, and she doesn't care what her mother thinks, and she doesn't care if she doesn't believe in her dreams, because I am gonna fucking do it, right? I am the master of my own destiny, and you don't control me anymore, Mom, right? Like, that's a confrontational scene between them that obviously happened before she moved to LA. Month 2, Hall is doing cocaine with Martin Scorsese. And modern day Martin Scorsese, actively 85 years old Martin Scorsese. He does a big old line of coke off of a glass table with Marty. Meanwhile,
slander.
Yeah, I was trying to pick, because there are, as you could probably tell, there's plenty of like actual celebrities sprinkled throughout this show or movie. I was trying to think of celebrities that I think would be cool with kind of being slandered a little bit with it,
Okay.
I think Martin Scorsese would think it would be funny if he is at a like super elite Jordan Belfort-esque Hollywood party and it's just our, like, deteriorating Adam Driver hairdresser, just him and Marty doing coke, and there's, like, a leopard walking around in the background, and they're just talking about movie, and Martin's really chatting really fast, and Donald is like, dude, slow down, man. It's fine. I like The Godfather too. Calm the fuck down. That sort of thing. Meanwhile, Morris has been she's kind of not partaking in any of the illicit activities that they're doing, right? She's just watching. She's the driver, right? She gets a phone call from one of her friends that she's made in LA since she moved there, and it is just a picture of her boyfriend making out with another woman, right? And so she's like a little heartbroken, and she tries to hide it down, right? She tries not to show how sad she is, right? But Hall has spent the last month with her and has kind of picked up on being able to read her emotions. And he's like, what's wrong? And she just shows him the picture. And he says, fuck it. Like, fuck this guy, right? And she's like, I just need a minute. I'm gonna go outside. Do you mind if I go for a drive, right? And Hall is like, yeah, that's fine. Go for a drive. Go for a drive. It's okay. And so she gets in the limo and drives away, right? And maybe a few hours pass. A lot more cocaine is done with Martin Scorsese. And after a while, Hall realizes that she's not coming back. And so he rents a taxi and he drives up to the Hollywood sign where he sees her sitting on the hood of her car and just crying, And I know that you can't actually get your car up to the Hollywood sign. Like, I know that there's no actual road to get you there, but it's a better image if the car is there.
Road. How do you think they transport stuff to the sign to put up, panels and clean it and stuff?
No, I mean, like, there's not a limo couldn't get up there, Like, regular people's cars can't get up there. You have to have, like, a good car, 4-wheel drive and shit.
I feel like...
Have you driven?
You have no concept of what you're talking about, but okay.
I've seen people hike it. What are you talking about?
Let's just move on.
All right, fine. So he gets up there, right? He pulls up next to her, right? He gets out of his car. He gets on the hood of hers, right? Sitting next to her. He puts his arm around her and he hands her a beer. And he says, it's fine, right? Like, life's full of all this shit, right? It's full of all this horrible, horrible shit, but it's just as full of all this beauty that we can observe here, right? And he looks out over the glittering lights of LA, and she throws back a drink, the first drink of the film that she has taken. And then he drives the limo with her back to her place, and he, wakes her up, and she goes up to bed and says, thanks for the lift. I'll see you tomorrow. And he's like, yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. I'll drive by and pick you up. And then he drives to her cheating boyfriend's house and beats the fuck out of him with the tire iron, right? Just hits him in the kneecaps, like really fucks this guy up, right? Next scene, she is averting her eyes, right, to something off camera, and then we pan over and we see Hall having a crazy sex party in a swimming pool that's full of baby oil. Just
what?
To the brim. He's having a sex party.
A swimming pool full of baby oil?
Swimming pool of oil, lube, whatever, some sort of a viscous fluid. Baby.
Wow. I don't know what you're dreaming of.
Hey, mate. It's LA.
Okay.
Shit happens in LA.
Apparently.
So he's having a crazy sex party, right? And at the end of the crazy sex party, this guy passes out, right? On a couch, not in the
Hopefully
pool.
not in the pool. He'd probably die.
Yeah. And that's when Hall picks something out of his pocket and slides it into his. And Morris is like, what's that? Next, we see them. Morris is driving them up to the Oscars, right? And Hall shows his pass, his Hall pass, if you will. And Morris and he stumble into the Oscars. He's drunk as a motherfucker and high on cocaine. And she is trying to hold it together because this is the biggest night in Hollywood. In Hollywood. Yeah. And so he gets up on stage, right? Before the people can tackle him, right? He starts smoking a cigarette and just starts screaming about all of these rich cunts showing up here, showing off their trophies and their fancy dresses. Fuck you guys. Like, he just lays into them with every horrible, shitty thought you have ever thought about the Oscars is what he is saying into the microphone right before he gets tackled by security, and then spends the night in jail, right? That's the end of month 2, right? Another interim scene where we see Morris, and she is packing up and she's getting ready to leave for LA, right? And she sits down with her grandmother, right? And her grandma's in a rocking chair smoking a cigarette. And she sits with her grandmother. Her grandma starts talking to her about her dreams, right? As a young woman, she loved to sing. And she was good at it. She had a beautiful, beautiful voice, right? But she needed to stay at home. She needed to take care of her family. She was pregnant, way younger than she meant to be, right? And she just sort of fell into the life that she's living. She wouldn't change it for the world. She loves her family, and she loves her daughter and her granddaughter and all of her grandkids. But she does wish that she had pursued singing. She wished she had gotten the ability to at least try to become a singer, right? And Morris hears that, and she sheds a tear, right? And hugs her grandma and gets on the bus and goes to LA, right? Because there's one bus that goes from Wisconsin to LA. It's one line. Hull is in the hospital, right? This is the beginning of month 3, his last month on Earth, right? He wakes up in the hospital, right? After his night in jail. Wakes up, he's kind of groggy, his head hurts, right? And he looks at the things, and there's a whole bunch of scary looking medical shit on the walls. And his doctor is staying there. It's like, Hall, Donald, buddy, you need to slow down. This is not sustainable. And he's like, dude, I'm going to be dead in a month. And he's like, at the rate you're going, you're going to be dead in a week. You need to slow down. And Hall, annoyed, pissed off, angry at everything, pretty rightfully so, rips out the needles he's got in his arms, and he just gets up, walks out of the hospital, ass flowing in the wind because he's wearing one of those gowns, and immediately calls up Morris. She pulls up in the limousine, hands him a change of clothes. He puts on a change of clothes to the zoo, and she takes him to the zoo, where he meets another one of his friends, putting that in quotation marks, one of his friends who works in the giraffe exhibit. And he has been given permission.
Is the friend the giraffe?
Huh?
You said he works in the giraffe exhibit, and I asked if it was the giraffe.
He was the... Oh, that would be great. No, I wish. He is a man, and he's like, you know what? You're a good friend. I don't know what you do, but every time my wife gets a haircut from you, she is glowing afterwards. She is so happy. And he's like, hey, man, it's just magic. Right? I'm just that good, right? So, this one's on the house, right? Enjoy yourself. And then we see as our lovely character, Donald Hall, rides on the back of a giraffe, right? And he's just having a grand old time. And it's really sweet, and he looks very childish, right? In that sort of awe and wonder at nature, right? And then we see the giraffe do that thing that giraffes do where it sticks its tongue up its own nose. And while it's doing that, Donald is doing cocaine off of the back of the giraffe, right?
Oh,
and so God. We're not really gonna do anything. And that's when we see that he's had these bald patches that have been coming out. We haven't really been paying all that much attention to his hair, he has these bald patches that are really showing, right? And it's, just kind of it's a metaphor, but it's also a literal thing about his hair falling out because he's dying of cancer, right? And Morris, finishes her script. She's at home, right? Or she's sitting in the limousine while Hall is having fun with his giraffe, right? She finishes her script and she submits it to a friend of hers who says she can get it in the hands of a producer, right? And she gets a response email from the producer. a few days later, and she's really excited, and she tells Hall, like, look at this, isn't this going to be good? This is going to be awesome. And she opens the email, and it says, sorry, wasn't good enough. Like, we're not choosing it. Better luck next time.
Sorry, we really liked your application, or your stuff, but, we just decided to go with another candidate.
Exactly. And she kind of loses it, right? And she, like, just gets out of the limo and she walks away. And Hall is kind of like, she'll be back, right? And 2 days pass. And she's not picking up her phone calls or anything, right? And he's worried as fuck. And then we see her, right? And she is getting shit-faced drunk at a house party that Nicolas Cage is throwing, right? And she is getting drunk, and she's hanging on these dudes, and she's not fun drunk. She's drunk enough that she is not able to be safe at all, and she is just absolutely gone, And she falls face first into the pool, drunk as a skunk, and everyone starts laughing at her, right? And Hall yells something like, somebody help her, she needs help, somebody get her, right? Nicolas Cage tells him, oh, shut up, buddy, it's not that big a deal, right? She's just some, like, bimbo. And Hall fucking knocks Nicolas Cage out, just hits him right in the jaw, it puts him on his ass, and then dives into the pool, right? And then he gets her out of the pool, right? He carries her out of the pool, he puts her in the back of the limo, he puts a jacket over top of her, right? And he drives back to her apartment, and he carries her up the stairs, right? And he, lays her in her bed, right? Leaves a note saying what had happened, right? Tells her to call him when she wakes up, and then he steps out of her apartment and closes the door behind her and immediately passes out, right? Blood pouring out of his nose. Passes out, right? He's in the hospital. His hair is now almost entirely gone, right? His skin is sallow and pale. His eyes are sunken. He is on death's door, right? And Morris walks in, and she is so sad to see him, right? Like, this guy that she hated at the beginning of their relationship, she is so incredibly sad to see him like this, because she had seen him so full of life for these last 3 months, and now he's a shell of who he once was, right? And he tells her to come, and they start talking, and they start laughing and joking about things that happened, right? And he pulls her close, right? And he puts his forehead to hers, and he says, before this nightmare ends, try and have some fun, won't you? Right? And she, teary-eyed, looks up at him, says, I will. And then he lays his head back, closes his eyes, and his heart monitor goes.
Oh, jeez.
And Morris, teary-eyed, she walks out of the room, right? She goes downstairs and she buys a pack of his cigarettes, like his brand, and she goes outside and she lights one and she looks out. And then maybe a few hours later, she's driven up to the Hollywood sign. She sits on the hood of her car staring out over the glittering lights of the city, and in one hand she has a bottle of beer, and she's got a cigarette in between her lips, and she's got an 8-ball of cocaine. And she's gonna remember her friend before the nightmare ends. That's the end of the movie.
Damn.
Yeah.
I didn't think he would die.
Yeah, right? That was the thing. Nobody ever dies in those movies where they're like, we're giving you a terminal illness. Oh no, you gotta figure it out. And they always at the end say, we mixed up your chart with somebody else. Or actually it's in remission or whatever. It turns out the thing that beats tumors is cocaine. And it's like, no, he's got a terminal brain.
The internationally recognized cure.
Cure for brain tumors is lots and lots of cocaine. No, he dies because that's what happens when real people get brain tumors, generally speaking.
So she's gonna go do some cocaine at the top of a mountain, or the top of the...
She's gonna go do some cocaine at the top of a mountain to remember her friend who loved cocaine and mountains of cocaine.
But
you
like,
know? But
okay, as the moral conductor of the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast, should we have her not do cocaine at the end of the movie for the kids at home? Should we have her be like,
but it's not a kids movie,
and she just tosses the cocaine because she's like,
but
I saw the way he lived his life. Maybe I don't want to do that.
I thought about it, right? I was thinking, because this is obviously not a movie that's saying drugs are good, right? But it is a movie saying that drugs are fun. That is what the movie is saying. Drugs are fun. And the movie is saying you should, grab life by the balls. Don't let fear and indecision and anxiety direct how you live your life, You need to live it. It's here to be lived. Don't allow petty squabbles and stupid indecision to railroad you into a life that you don't want to be living, right? That's kind of the idea. Life's meant to... But
also, don't do cocaine.
But also, don't do cocaine. But also, you know, all these rich and famous people are doing cocaine.
Yeah, doesn't mean... they do lots of stuff that people shouldn't do, Charlie.
Yeah, I know. But, it's... I don't think that this is a movie that has a real moral center. Like, it's not a moralistic universe, Because if it were, he would have gotten better. Because he became a better person by the end of the film, right? He was treating women like objects at the beginning of the movie, but by the end of the movie, he's defending this woman's honor, who he's never slept with and has no interest in sleeping with, right? Like, he's actually becoming a better person. And then he dies, because, that's life. So when you're alive, live, basically. But I can understand not having her not do the cocaine. Does not bother me if she doesn't do the cocaine. That's not like a sticking point. But cocaine.
Okay.
It's what Hollywood runs on, baby. It's the lifeblood of that cursed place that I have not been to in years.
I thought it was money. Same thing.
Money to buy what? Cocaine. Da-na-na-na. Cocaine. Eric Clapton said so.
Overall, I liked the film. It's not what I expected at all.
Yeah.
I feel like you not only lied to me last week, but you also lied to me before the podcast.
Fair enough.
You really, really threw me off the whole time going into it. I mean, once you started, I knew what was happening. Like, obviously, because, you told me. But before this, you were throwing me off massively. I thought horror, obviously, because you said horror. I assumed it was going to be space-oriented. And then you said, sort of dramatic comedy. And I thought it would be more surreal. Wasn't surreal, very serious, grounded show. Yeah, you're really throwing me off with these titles recently. I've been trying to get you to do certain types of shows, and I think I don't know if you are you actively trying to not do what I am trying to force you to do, or is this just what comes to your head and you're like, I'll do that?
I'll tell you, my initial idea when I heard this title, right, was I was going to change it to When the Nightmare Ends, and it was going to be a retirement home for slasher movie villains. Like, it was going to be a sitcom it's set in a retirement home for, like, a parody of Jason Voorhees and a parody of Freddy Krueger and all this stuff, right? And I think that would be fun. But I don't know why. I have just been more excited about real, not even necessarily dark. I mean, that was a dark story, but, like, just more, like, humanistic stuff, right? Like, real...
Yeah.
Down and basic. And I think it's also because I've been, like, reading comic books and playing video games. I've been, like, super filled with stories about, like, space and adventure and sci-fi and fantasy and stuff like that. So I'm like, this is my point in which I can go, actually, I'm going to make it about, like, living with our own mortality and how that affects people differently, Or, like, familial relationships.
If you look at your last couple shows, we have The Man on the Yellow Moon, The Time Is Always Now. Cloud Runner is an exception. to this, and so is Splatterpunk because I forced you to do Splatterpunk. And now this one, it's you're on quite the grounded kick. It's a new era of the VRP, at least for you. I am still mine have not been as grounded recently, but you have been quite grounded.
I've been quite grounded and like. And the thing is also, I always, of course, you know me, I have a love for an unhappy ending, right? I like an ending that's sad, because, you know, I'm fucked
you're a
up
sad
that way.
guy.
But I'm a sad man. But
Sad.
The time is always now is not a sad ending, I don't think. And The Man on the Yellow Moon's not a very sad ending. You know, so... This one is. I mean, the man does die, and then his seemingly only friend in the entire universe who was paid to spend time with him does cocaine in his honor, right? That's not exactly a happy ending, but still.
Mm-hmm.
But still. I think it's fun. I think it's well, not fun. I think it's a good show. It's the kind, or movie. It's the kind of movie that you wouldn't really see made today by Hollywood, you know? Like, that seems like it much more of a movie that would be made in the, like, 80s and 90s, right? In Hollywood, and now it would be, like, an indie thing. It would be, like, shopped around rather than made, you know?
I see, yeah.
Because it's, like, a character drama. It's not, there's nothing marketable about it besides the poster, which I still think is a banger of a poster, you know?
Yeah.
Adam Driver staring at the camera, shampoo in his hair, and one rivulet of shampoo running down, replacing
I forgot it was Adam Driver.
You know?
This whole time.
It's Adam Driver.
This whole time, this wasn't Adam. Even though you said it in the beginning, this whole time it was not Adam Driver in my head. I don't know who it was.
Imagine how much cocaine he could fit in that fucking schnoz of his. Oh my god.
Well, that was... that was
so many bags in there, dude. So many bags. He's giving Adrian Brody a run for his money. All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening to the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. I've been your host, Charles. Along with me, as always, been my co-host, editor, producer, co-pilot, gunner, navigator, and podcasting associate, Jacob Gloth. If you like what you heard here and you want to hear more, please give us a like, a follow, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your dog, tell your cat. And remember, we will be here next week. The brand new televisual series titled... Guess the title, Jake. I only have one title written, so you only have to. You can only guess that one.
Is it? I'm trying to. Yeah. Okay. Can I get a hint? Possibly. Can I get a hint? Is it an old show that I've done before? You're making me do another season?
No. This is a entirely new title, which was it's a fear I learned about and thought when I heard the name of this fear, that's gonna be a fucking awesome title.
So it's got to have the word phobia at the end. Is it... what's something you would just learn the other day?
Arachnophobia.
Let me think. Ornithophobia. I looked that up.
Is that a fear of ornithologist?
I don't know why, but this is the word for a fear of birds. Ornithophobia. Phobia. Well, I don't know how to pronounce this.
The title I picked is Zeusophobia, which is a fear of gods.
Oh. Zeusophobia.
Zeusophone.
See, I mean, this is the kind of shit you give you this is the kind of shit I do to you. I'm like, now I got to come up with a super grounded show about some guy who's like going through some serious shit.
He's like, yeah, he's a priest and he's like losing faith in his god, and he starts an illicit relationship with like a heroin addicted prostitute who like teaches him to enjoy life or something, you know?
Yeah. And then you'll listen to that the whole week and be like, why wasn't it in space?
Excuse me, why was it about a guy who threw lightning bolts at people? I will find out pretty scary, actually.
Well, Zeusophobia coming next week. I don't know what the hell it's going to be about. It's probably going to be... you know what? I'll give you a hint. I guarantee there'll be some real gods in it. I don't think I'm going to do something serious. Maybe I'm lying to you right now. Who knows?
Could be. I lied last week. You can lie this week.
Yeah, I lie every week.
I will. We'll talk to you later, our sweet listenership. Ciao.